few weeks, the weather had cleared, but the snow remained. The engines were now tasked with delivering Christmas trees across the island. Recently had the honour of taking the Balabu tree. It was large and green and majestic. When Thomas passed by later that day, covered in colourful tinsel, lights and baubles. This is going to be the best Christmas ever, of Thomas. The engines had also heard whispers of an old friend coming back to the island to help out with the festivities. But no one knew who it was, except the Fat Controller, who was keeping the secret to himself. It was a few days before Christmas Eve. Emily was waiting at the junction with a long line of coal trucks, making her deliveries across the island. While she waited, Daisy, the diesel rail car, rolled up snootily beside her.
Oh, isn't that the way?
She smirked. I beg your pardon, said Emily, rather surprised.
You always stock up for the steam engines and the stations of the island,
said Daisy.
but you never do anything for us diesels.
Of course we do, protested Emily. Name one thing we haven't done.
Well, you could have at least supplied the yards with freshly made fuel tanks,
said Daisy.
It would save a lot of bother for us to start on those horrendous cold mornings.
But that's not my problem, said Emily. I can't help it if your engine doesn't want to start in the morning.
And that's another thing,
said Daisy.
We might have helped you build an airport earlier in the summer, but that doesn't mean you have to look down your funnels at us and think that diesels are not useful.
Before Emily could detest, Daisy rolled away.
And another thing,
she called as she did.
You steam engines always show off that you have a better Christmas than us.
Emily gritted her teeth and puffed away to deliver her coal. While she did coal at Kelsthorpe Road, Emily told Henry what Daisy had said. Henry couldn't help but tell Edward. Do you think what Daisy says is true? Of course not, replied Edward. The diesels and the steam engines have always celebrated Christmas together. Nothing's ever different. Take the times we celebrated at Tidmouth Station. Oh, I remember that day quite well, boomed a familiar voice. Henry and Edward almost jumped with surprise. I know that voice, said Edward. And sure enough, who should roll next to Edward and Henry but BoCo, the modern Vickers, diesel electric Type 2. Lads, long time no see, called BoCo. Well, bust my buffers, exclaimed Edward. BoCo, what a wonderful surprise. Does the Fat Controller know you're here? Asked Henry. Of course he does, replied BoCo. He spoke to my manager on the other railway and asked me to come and help with the festivities. He's also got something else planned for me, but I have to report to him to find out what it is. Anyway, best be going. Good to see you again, lads. And with that, BoCo rumbled away. Well, I'll be, exclaimed Edward. Christmas really has come early this year. BoCo was to report to the Fat Controller at Peel Station. He was overjoyed when the Class 28 rolled in. Ah, BoCo, he said, it's so good to see you again. I trust things are well on the other railway. Ah, they are, sir, thank you, replied BoCo. I understand you've got a bit of a task for me. Yes, indeed, replied the Fat Controller. I've heard some concerns about the other diesels. I know they all worked well with the steam engines when they built the airport, but they believe they are not given a fair share of Christmas spirit. And that's why, BoCo, I've asked you to come and help. I'll be organising the usual party at Tidmouth Station, but I have something else planned for the diesels. Of course, sir, said BoCo. Anything to help, the Fat Controller quickly explained. It was BoCo's job to make many deliveries across the island. He bought a Christmas tree, decorations, presents, took it all to the coaling plant. He was quite secretive, but he only told the steam engines what he was doing. Gordon and James thought BoCo had gone mad, giving the Diesels a Christmas that they believed the Diesels did not deserve. The likes of Edward, Henry, Thomas and Percy knew that BoCo was a good-hearted Diesel and would always help the Fat Controller in a time of need. Before long, everything was ready. BoCo had just watched the Christmas tree be decorated at the Diesels arrived. Diesel, Mavis, Harry, Bert, Salty,
Derek,
and even Diesel 10 were in attendance. Diesel was still recounting how useful his snowplow had been. The others chuckled and praised him for his efforts. Then the Christmas hats were passed around and the tree was lit up. I must say, BoCo me hearty, said Salty, this is a wonderful Christmas.
I must admit,
said Daisy.
it looks perfect. Back everything I say to the steam engines.
Yes, indeed, BoCo, said Diesel. You may have been away from our rails for quite some time, but at least you've given us a wonderful Christmas to remember. Here, agreed Mavis. BoCo smiled humbly. There were plenty of games for the Diesel's crews to play. There were carols, there was a few Christmas treats, and even Diesel 10 let out his funny side by placing his Santa hat on his claw and making a little Santa Claus joke in the process. The steam